The ground trembled violently beneath Lucy's small frame as she gasped for air, her fingers clawing at the cold, wet mud that encased her like a trap. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just darkness closing in around her. Panic surged through her chest as the weight of the earth pressed harder, each breath more suffocating than the last. "Help!" she screamed, but the words were swallowed by the relentless storm. All she could see was the sky, dark and angry, the rain pouring down like needles. Was anyone even looking for her? The landslide had come without warning, swallowing her whole and dragging her from the safety of the path, leaving her helpless, buried under the weight of everything she couldn't escape. And then, just as her strength began to fade, she heard it. A familiar sound, a desperate bark in the distance. Buddy. Her heart skipped a beat. Buddy, the dog she had saved not long ago, the one who had always been by her side. Was it possible? Was he really here, fighting through the storm to find her? But Buddy wasn't just any dog. He was her savior. Now it seemed he was her only hope. This is where it begins. The story of how Lucy's bravery would lead to an unforgettable twist, one that would change everything. The rescue she never saw coming, and the lesson about courage, loyalty, and love that will stay with you forever. Stay tuned, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Acts of Kindness Stories. You won't want to miss what happens next. Lucy had always felt more comfortable with animals than with people. Her blonde pigtails and big blue eyes were often seen by the townsfolk as a sign of her innocence, but they never saw the strength hidden behind them. Since the tragic car accident that claimed the lives of her parents, Lucy had found solace in the company of animals, particularly her dog, Buddy. Max, a German shepherd with striking golden fur, was the last gift from her parents before they were gone, and he had been by her side through every moment of pain. Max had been a constant comfort, even when Lucy's world felt dark. Her grandmother, Martha, was the one who had always encouraged her to connect with animals. Martha had been known for her uncanny ability to communicate with dogs, a skill that had made her the most respected dog trainer in the county. But age and illness had begun to steal Martha's strength, leaving her in a wheelchair and unable to teach Lucy as much as she once could. Still, her wisdom lived on in her granddaughter, who had become a natural with dogs, just like Martha. It was the morning of the storm that Lucy's world would shift once more. The storm wasn't like any other. The rain came down hard, drenching everything in sight. Lucy looked out her window, staring at the lightning that tore through the sky, and Max stood beside her, pacing nervously. Lucy knew that when Max was like this, something wasn't right. "Grandma, Max is worried," she said, her voice a mixture of concern and curiosity. Her grandmother, always wise in the ways of animals, understood the signs. "Take the walkie-talkie," Martha said with a firm but gentle voice. "Don't go too far, and if anything happens, you call me. Understand?" Lucy nodded, tugging on her yellow raincoat and setting out with Max by her side. They headed toward Crescent Ridge, a dangerous area just outside the town, a place where few ventured. The muddy terrain made the climb treacherous, but Max was insistent, pulling Lucy toward the cliffs that loomed in the distance. Lucy trusted him implicitly. He had never let her down before. As they neared the edge of the ridge, Lucy heard the sound of an animal in distress. A sharp cry pierced the storm, and Max immediately broke into a run. Lucy followed, her heart pounding in her chest, as they arrived at the cliff's edge. There, clinging desperately to the crumbling ledge, was another German shepherd, larger than Max, its sleek black and tan coat nearly blending into the storm's fury. The dog growled, fear and pain evident in its eyes. Lucy knew what it felt like to be scared, to be alone in a world that seemed so unforgiving. But she also knew how to calm a frightened dog. "It's okay, boy," she whispered, her voice steady despite the terror of the situation. "I won't hurt you. I'm here to help." Max barked, urging Lucy to be careful, but the ledge was crumbling, the earth slipping away beneath the dog's paws. With no time to waste, Lucy took off her raincoat and laid flat on her stomach, inching closer to the dog. She spoke softly, as her grandmother had taught her, until the dog stopped growling and instead, a soft whimper filled the air. Lucy's heart swelled with determination. "Please grab my coat. I'll pull you to safety," she pleaded. For a moment, the dog hesitated, staring at Lucy with uncertainty in its eyes. But then something changed. As if understanding, the dog bit down on the coat with a desperate growl. Lucy began to pull with all her might, her small body straining with the effort. "Max, back up," she called, needing space to pull the dog to safety. Max retreated, allowing Lucy room to move. With every inch, she could feel the weight of the storm around her, the ground beneath her shifting. Just as the dog's front paws finally touched solid ground, the ledge gave way, crashing into the ravine below. Lucy let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding as the dog collapsed, exhausted but safe. But the relief was short-lived. Tires screeched against the wet gravel as a vehicle pulled up. Dr. Thompson, the town's kind-hearted veterinarian, rushed to her side, quickly assessing the dog. "Lucy, you are either the bravest or most foolish child I've ever met," she said, taking in the drenched girl and the trembling dog. That's when Robert Wilson, the local show dog breeder, stepped out of his luxury SUV, his boots sinking into the mud. "That's my dog," he announced, his tone cold and dismissive. The dog, now identified as Kaiser, had escaped during the storm. Robert's eyes narrowed as he sized up Lucy. "I'll be taking him now." Lucy stood firm, refusing to step aside. "He was trapped on the cliff. He almost died, and you didn't even look for him." Her voice wavered with anger, the injustice of the situation burning in her chest. Robert didn't flinch. "Animals escape. It happens." Dr. Thompson stepped in, her voice sharp and authoritative. "This dog needs medical attention. I'll take him to my clinic. You can collect him once he's stabilized." As they loaded the injured dog into Dr. Thompson's truck, Lucy couldn't help but feel a deep sense of protectiveness. She had saved this dog's life, and now it was up to her to make sure he would be treated with the care he deserved. 3 days later, Lucy sat by the kennel at Dr. Thompson's clinic, watching Kaiser, now known as Duke, rest in his bed. The deep gash on his leg had healed, but the psychological scars of his past remained. Lucy visited him every day after school, reading to him from her favorite animal books, her presence a soothing comfort to the traumatized dog. Max stayed nearby, watching over his new companion with a quiet understanding. Dr. Thompson had noticed the bond between Lucy and Duke. "She's the best thing that's happened to him," she remarked one day, watching as Lucy gently stroked Duke's fur. The dog, once fearful and aggressive, now allowed Lucy to touch him without flinching. His transformation was nothing short of remarkable. But Robert Wilson wasn't done. He appeared at the clinic one day, demanding the return of his dog. "I've come for my dog," he said coldly. "Kaiser's worth thousands. I'll take him now." Lucy stood between him and the kennel, her arms crossed over her chest. "His name is Duke," she replied firmly, her voice unwavering. Dr. Thompson intervened again, telling Robert that Duke was still recovering and would not be released until he was fully healed. Robert's eyes flashed with anger, but he reluctantly left. Over the next few weeks, Duke's progress continued. Lucy worked tirelessly with him, applying everything her grandmother had taught her. She was determined to show Duke that not all humans were like Robert Wilson, that he could trust again. Slowly but surely, Duke began to respond to commands, and the spark of hope flickered in his eyes. One day after school, Dr. Thompson called Lucy into her office. "I need to show you something," she said, her voice serious. She led Lucy to the back of the clinic, where a man was waiting. He was tall, with dark hair and a weathered expression. It was Michael Davis, a drifter who had recently come to town and been helping around the clinic. He had always felt familiar to Lucy, but she couldn't quite place why. His eyes were filled with something. Recognition, perhaps? He stood up as she entered. "You're Lucy, right?" he asked gently. She nodded, unsure of what to say. Michael took a step closer. "I think I owe you an explanation." Just then, Duke began to whine softly. Lucy knelt beside him, reassuring him with her touch. Michael seemed to understand. "It's okay, boy. We'll get through this together." And that's when it hit Lucy like a bolt of lightning. Michael wasn't just a stranger. He wasn't just a drifter. He was someone from her past. Someone tied to her family in ways she never could have imagined. But that was a story for another day. For now, all that mattered was that Duke was safe, and so was she. The storm had passed, and they had all come out stronger on the other side. As the days passed, Riverdale began to heal. The storm had left its mark, but the town was resilient, just like Lucy. Her world had changed forever, but in the most unexpected way, it had become even stronger. The bond she had forged with Duke, the dog she had saved, had brought out something deep within her. A courage she hadn't known she possessed, and a sense of purpose she could no longer ignore. Lucy's grandmother, Martha, though still weak, had become a beacon of hope for Lucy. She had shown her that family isn't just about blood. It's about the ones who stand by you no matter the storm. Lucy was learning that lesson every day, not just from her grandmother, but from the animals that had stood by her side. Max, her ever-loyal companion, and Duke, the dog who had nearly been lost but found redemption in Lucy's hands, were proof of that. They were her family now, the ones who had given her the strength to keep going. And then there was Michael, a man from her past, a connection to her family that had been lost for so long, now returned. Their bond had been reawakened by the shared love of animals, and Lucy could finally understand why she felt such an undeniable connection to him. He wasn't just the man who had helped save Duke. He was her father, the man who had survived against all odds, just as she had. Together, they had rebuilt their lives. The new chapter of their lives began at the Miller Family K9 Training Center, a place born from hardship, sacrifice, and love. They weren't just training dogs, they were helping people, changing lives, and making a real difference in the world. It was a legacy built on kindness, a legacy that would live on for generations. As Lucy stood in the doorway of the training center, looking at all the dogs running around, her heart swelled with pride. This was her purpose. This was what she had been meant to do all along. It wasn't just about saving dogs, it was about saving people too. Giving them a chance to heal, to rebuild, to find hope again, just as she had. Max and Duke, now calm and happy, rested beside her, both content with the life they had built together. And as they prepared for another day of training, Lucy smiled, knowing that she was part of something bigger than herself. The storm had taken much, but it had also given her the greatest gift of all, the strength to rebuild her life and the courage to keep moving forward. So, as the story comes to a close, think about your own journey. What can you do today to bring kindness into the world? Just like Lucy, you too have the power to make a difference, to change lives, to heal what is broken. If you've enjoyed today's story, please take a moment to hit the like button, share this video with others who could use a reminder of the power of kindness, and leave us a comment to share your thoughts. We'd love to hear your stories. And don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories. Let's hit 10,000 subscribers together. There are so many more stories like this waiting to be told. Together we can spread kindness and make this world a better place. Thank you for being part of our community.